Okay, welcome to the next session. What we're going to do here is we're just going to add a very subtle gradient effect to this header area. What that will do is just break up the flat blue colour and just make it look nice, I guess. The first thing we need to do is to create a new layer. We'll do that by, as ever, clicking the Create New Layer icon. We'll rename the layer. We'll call it Header Gradient, as we'll be applying a gradient to the footer later too. So if we just keep these as specific as possible in case we need to edit them later on, that's good. Just make sure that this layer is above the shape layer, again by clicking it and dragging it around. Anywhere above the shape layer is fine for now, because that's where the gradient is going to appear. The next thing is we need to select the correct colour. So just to make sure here that the set foreground colour is clicked to white, or 255, 255, 255, which is, as we know, pure white. And if we click OK, we now have the correct colour. The next thing we need is the gradient tool itself, which is here in the tool palette. Gradient tool. If I click and hold down on there, as you can see the paint bucket tool is in there already. You may have this selected as default, but it's the gradient tool that we want for now. So if I just select that, and as ever we have up at the top here our options for the tool. We need to click in here, which is to edit the gradient. That brings up the gradient editor. Now currently we have the foreground to background selected, which is this preset here. What that does, it takes the foreground colour and the background colour that you have selected and creates a gradient out of those two colours. That's not exactly what we want though. We want a white to transparent gradient, which handily enough is the next preset along. So if I just click on there, that gives us foreground to transparent. Our foreground colour being white, well, that takes us right through to transparent. So if I click OK, we have the gradient colour that we want. Now the next thing we need to do is to what's called load a selection, and that enables us to select only the pixels or object that is on a certain layer. Now because we want the header gradient to only be over the header and not the background or the bar or anything, it's useful to be able to just select that area. Now, there's two ways of doing this. There's the slow way, which I will do now. That is to select the layer that we want to load the selection of. We go to Select, Load Selection, and that gives us a couple of options here. The document, which is the one that we're in, so that's fine, and the channel, which is shape transparency, which is exactly what we want. So if we click OK, what we'll see happen is a dashed line will appear around the exact shape of the object that we have on that layer. And if I quickly, what I'll do is, you don't need to do this, but I'll just quickly select an airbrush, and with the colour on white will do for now. I'll just select the header gradient layer. I'll just paint on there, and as you can see, no matter how hard I try, I can't actually paint anywhere outside of the selected dotted area, and that's very, very useful just for for this purpose alone. So I'll just delete that, what I've done now, because we obviously don't need that. Now for the gradient, I actually don't want it to appear over this beveled area here, because what that'll do is it'll just flatten out the nice bevel that we have. So I need to somehow contract this selection to make it smaller so it doesn't encompass this bevel area here. Now thankfully there's an easy way of doing this. We need to go again up to Select, Modify, and Contract. And that gives us the option here to contract the selection by as many pixels as we want. Now we know that the header bevel was 3 pixels in size because we set that in one of the previous videos. So what I'm going to do is, and what you're going to do is, we're going to contract this by 4 pixels, which is slightly smaller than the bevel itself. So if you just watch what happens to the dashed line when I click OK here, there we go. It's actually made the entire selection smaller. Now this is now the area that we want to concentrate on. This is actually within the size of the bevel. So with the header gradient layer selected, and making sure that we have the gradient tool itself selected, what we're going to do is we're going to draw down here. Now the gradient, how the gradient works is, you click where you want the gradient to start, then you drag down to where you want the gradient to stop. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to click down to about 3/4 down. So the white will start at the top of where I've clicked, so the top of the header, and it will then come down, down, down to where my mouse pointer is now, and it will end in a transparent. So if I just let go, you'll see exactly what I mean. There we are. So it's gone now from white through to transparent, so we see the blue underneath. If I just click the marquee tool and click anywhere on the document just to release the selection, we'll see that it hasn't affected anywhere over the bevel area, and we have actually, because we selected 4 pixels instead of 3, we have a very nice little blue outline going around it as well, which makes it quite distinct. Now at the moment, of course, this gradient is far too in your face, it's too much, so we're going to just take the opacity, the fill opacity of this down to 30%, and straight away you can see that's much nicer, although still perhaps a little bit too much. So we'll just change the layer blending mode, we'll change that to overlay. If I click on that, you see it's much more subtle now, and so although it's not exactly an in your face sort of effect, it does break up that blue really nicely and sets us up for adding other elements and other effects onto there. Okay, well, I think we've learnt quite a lot there. What we need to do is save this off, file, save, and yeah, move on to the next video.